I'm Sonya Morton Firth, and you're watching the Sonya Morton Firth Show. Here are some of the best bits of 2019, compiled into 2 parts. Press subscribe to watch some of my truly amazing guests that I've had on my show this year. Let their words of wisdom inspire you into 2020. Have a fantastic year.
I'm coming in. He went, okay, so you come in when you're ready. And he said, I will make you better. So that weekend, it was literally like the Friday or something. So I had to go out the weekend, and I said, I'll come in on the Monday, which led me to the biggest session I've ever had on that weekend, in fact. And I said, no, I'm not going to go mad. And then on the Sunday night before I was going to, I went hell-bent for leather.
Was it one of those, a bit like before you go on a diet, well, not the same, but I'll chuck everything into my after Monday?
Probably about a million times worse. Yeah. But it left me literally crawling, trying to climb buildings at the end of the night, trying to find the last hit. All the people had got to bed. It was like 5 in the morning. I was going in at 9. I'd have made 7 trips that evening, back and forwards to various houses, and taken everything I'd got, every single bit. And I went home and I scraped my carpet for every bit, and I get loads out of that. And then I was also smoking crack as well, and I was on the pipe for a long time.
Oh, God.
Yeah, I forget about that. I mean, lucky that didn't take hold of me either, because I think I saw the downside of that, and I wasn't prepared. See, I was fairly coherent. Anyway, so that stopped, and I went in on the Monday. They took everything off me. I had loads of Rohypnol because I was taking them to sleep, and I was unaware of what they were. Just I knew that they made me sleep for an hour, and then I was awake again. So not as long as the other stuff I was doing, the sleep deprivation, the entire sort of time I was awake. Anyway, I went in the clinic. I stayed there for 2 weeks. I came out to do an interview for Radio 1, blah, 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 and the inevitable happened. They said, don't leave the clinic, and I did, and I went and I found something. And it was like nowhere near what I used to take, nowhere near, not even inconceivable amount, but it had this mad effect on me. My heart went, my brain went. So obviously I've been doing this work, and it was like, oh, I'm actually not in control here. Like, this is gone. And I thought, that's it. And that was the moment. That was the moment when it actually set in. And I never went back, never relapsed. And then we decided, how can we use the tools that I'd learned in the drug and alcohol field, which are transferable. They're not unique to that. It's not about addicted to substances. Those tools work for everything on a daily basis. So we used some of those. We used some of the knowledge around that, knowledge that they'd all picked up. And we thought, well, how do we make people's lives easier by, I've seen Facebook Lives, I've seen this, and we made this community called Happy Days, where just by changing a little, and people post affirmations, which work great, but when you have a little community doing it, and it's just there, and we just speak and do this stuff, people resonate, and they start thinking, oh man, I need this every day. Nice little quotes here, nice little quotes. They ever read it, just fires off the endorphins.
Yeah, if you wake up on a Monday morning and you're having got out of bed the wrong way or whatever, and you read something that's nice, it can...
Exactly. So that's what Happy Days was. On the back of Happy Days, we've come up with some great ideas. Happy Days is a community developing. We've now created the Happy Hub, which is still developing. It's released, but it's a place where therapists, people like yourself who now have a program to offer people, we ask them not to give them a discount, let's say, but we do Facebook Lives with each person, give them a chance to promote themselves on the platform. And then they give us some of their content, so people can look on the thing, they get a free, look at people's content and say, oh wow, I like this person. Then they can choose they want to work with them.
Yeah, that's great.
And it's fairly unique that way. I've not seen anything that's was nearly similar. So, the fact that there's a lot of people out there who have a journey and have a story. Everyone has a story. But you don't get heard. So it gives a chance for people to get heard. And that's why people go and think, oh, I love that. Wow, your story's incredible. Your story's incredible. So just about letting people do that and air their views. A bit like a YouTube for selfless development.
And Brandon, my last question, and I ask this to all my guests. If you were to write a message in a bottle for future generations to find, what would that message be?
Don't let the bastards get you down.
Brandon, thank you so much for having me on my show. Thank you.
It's a pleasure.
You want somebody that is able to banter with you, that is, if you go up, they calm you down. If you go down, they lift you up, and they keep you in center and authentic. And that occurs when you have a balance of support and challenge. The ancient Greeks said when you have more similarities than differences, you have infatuation. And when you see more differences than similarities, you have resentment. But if you have a blend of similarities and differences, support and challenge, you have love. Every distress that a human being is going to face, distress, not eustress, but distress, comes from the perception of loss of that which you seek and a gain of that which you're trying to avoid. Every distress known.
I think people are going to have to rewind that and listen to that over and over again, because that's, you know, the biggest thing
Because
out there.
it's a normal response to predator and prey in our brain, except now the predator is anything that challenges our values and a prey is anything that supports our values. We just have more diversified values than just an animal out in the wild, seeking an animal and trying to avoid an animal. We have now more predator things in our life and more prey things in life, because anything we desire is a prey. Anything we're desiring to avoid is a predator. And as the Buddha says, the desire for that which is unobtainable and the desire to avoid that which is unavoidable is a source of human suffering. Yeah. That's where passion is. That's why passion is polarizing the mind and trying to avoid half and try to get the other half. And many people are trying to get rid of half their life to love themselves, and it won't ever happen. Well, actually, purpose and passion are not the same. I'd like to clarify that.
Okay, good.
The word passion, in its etymology, in its root, comes from patio and pati and passio, and which means to suffer. And almost everybody out there is talking about get your passion, find your passion.
Exactly, yeah.
But if they go into the etymology, which I hope everybody who listens to this goes and looks up the word, the etymology of passion, it means to suffer. Because it's an animal behavior of trying to avoid pain and seek pleasure, trying to avoid predator and seek prey. That's why the deadly sins of Christianity were gluttony, sloth, greed, lust, all the pleasure without pain approaches. And those are the sufferings. Because you're striving for that which is unavailable and trying to avoid that which is unavoidable. And that's the source of human suffering, as the Buddha says. But there's an inspired mission, not a passion, to an individual who lives by their highest value. When you try to live by lower values, you go into passion. When you try to live by the highest values, you go into an inspired mission, which is intrinsic, not extrinsically driven.
How do you know the difference?
If you have to ask the question, it's passion, because you'll have certainty when it's a mission. Yeah. Now, if a person's in a job they're not inspired by, if they go and jump radically over into something else without a net, without a plan or whatever, that's dangerous and probably foolish.
A bit silly, really, yeah.
So people make decisions based on what they think will give them the greatest advantage or disadvantage at any moment in time. In most cases, they went out there with a fantasy idea, sort of a self-righteous, arrogant idea of what the world needs, according to what they think it needs, projected it onto society without checking what the world needs. You're not going to have a very viable business trying to sell something people don't want. You need to go out and do some market research and find out what people are looking for. And if you have no demand, it's hard to push things uphill. So many times people have a fantasy based on their own needs that that's what the world wants, and they project it onto the world, and they pay a price. So that's what the purpose of a business plan is, to make sure you do due diligence, make sure you find out what the real needs are, find out what it's going to cost to provide those needs effectively and efficiently in a competitive manner, and then make sure you've got your plan in operation before you jump. And if you do, you're less likely. Doesn't guarantee it, but it's less likely to fall on your face.
In my talk, I actually have got a little section on this where I call it rinsing my social media. If you've got a rag that's dirty, you wash it, you rinse it, you hang it up, and you can use it again, right? So I decided at the time that I need to rinse my social media. I need to clean some of the bad energy and the negative energy out of there. And it took me quite a long time, because at the time I had about, I remember 15,000 people following on my page. And slowly, just on a daily basis, if I wake up in the morning or in the afternoon, when I'm on my social media, if whatever comes across my page, if it's positive, great. If it's negative, no hesitation, defriend, delete. And after 6 months to a year, slowly, the negative stuff filtered out. But then again, like before, I consciously started adding to my Facebook and my Instagram pages or my social media pages some positive stuff. Now, that's easy to find. There are millions, hundreds of millions of pages and content pages that you can find of people that are positive, that are uplifting. It's not easy. So again, just by doing a few things, you can turn, it's all about data, isn't it? It's about the data that comes into your mind on a daily basis. one of those points. So it's, you're always on top. You step out on top, and you get to this other realm, and things aren't going away. So absolutely not easy. So all in all, these things kind of started really putting a lot of pressure on me. I knew I was under pressure. I knew I felt pressure, but I always just thought that was normal. I didn't really think at the time that there's something more to this. We're all tough. We're all proud. Life is hard. Life is tough. Life throws all kinds of curveballs at you. And, you're taught to just push on forward, keep on going. And at one stage, a few years after my retirement, all these things really just compiled so heavily on me that I started feeling a little bit funny this one week. Well, it actually started often, like when Wednesdays came along, I started feeling a little bit nervous, and I don't know why. Wednesday, Thursday, Friday is like the worst days, and actually when Monday starts, yeah, like an anxiety, and I didn't know what this thing was, man, because I was single. Well, I'm still single, but I was single at the time, and so weekends came closer, and my friends have all got families and kids, so I don't want to bug them. So as the weekend coming closer, I started feeling a bit of anxiety because what am I going to do this weekend? And so slowly, this thing started just building and building because of all this pressure around me and the weekends, and I'm single and da-da-da. And this came to an end one Friday afternoon, and I remembered it like yesterday when I woke up that morning and my hands were sweaty and I felt like I had the flu. When you got the flu, you feel a bit feverish.
Yeah.
At one stage, I felt like I've had some bottle of wine to drink. And at about 3 o'clock that afternoon, I literally felt like the walls of my apartment was caving in on me. And then I realized, hang on, there's something wrong. And I actually at one stage thought, am I having a heart attack? Is this what a heart attack is? I didn't know, because I didn't know what this was. There's no good time for someone to go through hardship, but it was tough at the time. So now I have to say it's the happiest I've been, and I can say this right now, this is probably the poorest I've been for my whole life, but this is the happiest I've been so far. And I know that the way I look at life now, with gratitude for the small things in life, which is, for example, waking up in the morning, taking a breath, and knowing that I'm not part of the 151,000 people that died last night. That's an amazing thing. That's an incredible thing.
Yeah.
And
That's beautiful. That's
beautiful, man. Living in a country where I've got a car, and if I've got a car, I'm probably one of the 0.1%.
What did you say? A bucky?
Oh, a bucky. A bucky is a pickup.
What's a bucky?
I don't know why we call it a bucky. I'm not sure, but it's a. In fact, they sell it as a bucky. Some vehicles will say the bucky's price is that much. So yeah, it's I'm in a really good space. And coming back into your question, purpose. I'm of the opinion that life goes through seasons. I am 100% sure, not 100% sure. I'm convinced that in, say, 10 or 15 years, I'm going to have possibly another outlook at life. Things are going to change. I'm going to have different views and perspectives. And then something else might feel to me that this is my purpose.
My last question, and I ask this to all my guests. If you were to write a message in a bottle to be found by future generations, what would that message be?
That's a nice question. I would say, if I want to put a spin on the question. If that bottle was put in the water 1,000 years ago, and we picked that bottle up today, there's been a lot of change from 1,000 years to now in terms of technology and all the things on earth. Yet the values of 1,000 years ago are still the same values it is today. If I would put a message in a bottle, I would say to people, values never change. It doesn't matter if it's 1,000 years ago today or 20 years from now. Values is the most important thing. Doesn't matter how much technology and things around us change. Try and keep values to the core as what it should be. That for me is the most important thing. I thought about this question, and that for me is the message that I would like to put in there.
Beautiful.
Do you think men and women look at it in a different light?
All are suffering the same.
All the suffering the same.
Same.
So you don't think, because I know women have a tendency to talk more about it with their
The
girlfriends.
way you handle it, the way you express it, the way you deal with it probably is different. The way you manage it is different as men and women. But when you are suffering, when somebody else is suffering, it is exactly the same thing. There is this feeling that my suffering is greater than the other person's suffering, or I have gone through this so much more than the other. But in the truth of it, when there is fear, when I experience fear, or when you experience fear, the experience of fear is just the same. We probably look very different, probably we are from different cultures, different religion, but we are one in our experience of life. And whether we are men or women, young or old, belonging to this culture or another culture, the experience of suffering is just the same. And a suffering state separates us, a suffering state disconnects us, a suffering state makes us feel separate and lonely in our lives.
On that note, part of the book, not part of the book, a large part of the book talks about connection that I really resonate with. Connection is so important. And you talk about connection in terms of romantic relationships and relationships with everybody that you have around you. What does that word, or connection, what does that really mean? What does it feel like? Because some people don't, when we talk about connection, it's quite a large word these days.
It's probably an overused word also now.
Yes.
Connection is actually experiencing the other. It could be the other's joy, the other's suffering, or it could be the other's celebration. But just feeling as being one with the other, not as being separate. It could be experienced as deep gratitude. It could be experienced as including the other in your life, where you really feel expanded, where you include your family, your children, the people around you, or the community. You feel larger in an experience of connection. It is an experience where we move beyond ourselves. If you look at any suffering state, be it anger, be it fear, be it hurt, it is an engrossment with oneself. You might be probably fighting for justice of the greatest order, but in depth, if you bring attention to your suffering state, it will be about yourself. So we see the suffering state as being the biggest epidemic of this world, because it separates, it disconnects. The action that comes from a suffering state causes more suffering, more pain to others. And we are becoming disintegrated. We are disintegrated within ourselves. We are disintegrated as families, as societies, as nations.
Because we're constantly thinking of ourselves and
not feeling expanded to include others. If you include others in your state of being, the actions that would respond, that would come from that place, would not be hurting. Would not be hurting yourself, or would not be hurting the other. It's a place from which immense responsibility arises, where you feel so large.
Do you think technology has anything to do with that as well?
We have made a lot of technological advancements. We actually have Alexa's turning off the lights, as I said. But the truth, so that we can have more time to relax, right? But
we're constantly on Facebook, social media.
We do not have any time
emails.
to relax. There is constant beeping, messaging, iPhones ringing, and we become more busier than we ever were. And what is taking a toll is our experience of life. And it doesn't stop there. What is taking a toll is the future generation that is to come. What I have observed, not only in India, not only in that particular event, is what I've observed in my travel in different cities across the globe. I've seen people wanting to change their lives. I've seen people are really seeking to live a different life. They are tired with the way they've been living their life. They're tired with the way the civilization is moving at such a fast pace. And earlier, a spiritual experience, a transcendental experience was limited to a very small community of seekers wanting to live life differently. But right now, it is not those small seekers. In India, we have a process very specifically designed for youth, and we have youth coming from different parts of the globe. So they're not waiting to become 50 or 60 in order to experience a beautiful life, in order to experience or have the transcendental and mystical experiences. They're starting as young as 9 years old.
And finally, my final question, I ask all my guests this. If you were to write a message in a bottle to be found by future generations, what would that message be?
You probably might be remembered or not remembered. You probably just exist and leave. But what I can say is the impact that your state can cause, especially an impact that a state of connection can leave, is humongous. It can touch many lives, not only for this generation, but it can touch many, many lives. So if you're able to nurture the state of connection, please understand you are impacting this world very positively for many, many lives to come.
I love that. Nurture the state of connection. Thank you so much, Preethaji. Thank you. It's been a real honor.
Thank you so much, Sonya. It was beautiful. It was wonderful, wonderful connecting to you. Thank you.
Thank you. Tell me, if we don't do anything, like if we just did nothing today and we continued to buy more plastic bottles and chuck them away and they go into the sea, what would happen?
Already around a lot of coastal areas, the plastic is so vast and so intense, you can't even get into the ocean. It's being washed up onto the shores. I don't know if you've seen any of the footage of some of the shorelines around Africa, around Thailand. You can't even see the sea for plastic. Things are choking on it. It's really bad, but the toxicity that comes out of the plastic is really harmful. I mean, even all around the UK, where the landfill sites were created in the 50s, they all thought it was a good idea at the time, but the landfill sites are all around the sides of the UK. They're now breaking down into the ocean, and the sea around the UK is probably going to be one of the most toxic because of the plastic waste that's now fermented and is falling into the sea. So from then on, I then started my campaigning against trying to save these animals. Anti-shark finning was my biggest thing. I used to do lots of campaigning online to stop shark finning. Steve Irwin, who was really big in Australia, he did a lot, and he uncovered a lot of illegal Japanese fishing trawlers that were slicing the fins off sharks and just leaving them to die. It takes them 5 days to die on the bottom of the seabed.
That's horrible.
It makes me want to cry. So I did a lot of campaigning against them. Then I discovered that dolphins are slaughtered unnecessarily in the Solomon Islands and Norway, and a lot of places in Japan. They bring in thousands of dolphins and just unnecessarily slaughter them in these coves for a sport, which is really sickening. So I did a lot of campaigning against that. Then when I came back to the UK, I started a little business where I've got my own bottles called Purity bottles. There is a link to this, but my Purity bottles, you can fill them with water from anywhere around the world, and they give you 99.9% pure water. So these bottles, I started thinking about, I was watching Ocean Rescue on the TV about the problem with the plastic bottles in the ocean. Yes. And I just thought to myself, we don't need plastic bottles anymore. We need these bottles. And where I'd been doing lots of campaigning about saving the animals in the ocean, I thought, why don't I start campaigning about stopping plastics going into the ocean?
It's been absolutely amazing having you. I've got my last question that I ask everyone that comes on my show. If you were to write a message in a bottle to be found for future generations, what would that message be? I'm guessing the bottle wouldn't go in the ocean.
That's what I think. I'm hoping it's a glass bottle.
Yes, it would be a glass bottle.
I would like somebody to find that in 100 years' time and respond to it by saying, the ocean is still here, and there is still marine life here, and it's becoming a better place. So, yeah.
Lisa, thank you so much
No
for
worries.
being a guest on my show.
You're talking about shaping your body,
Yeah,
building
shaping,
muscle,
yeah,
and you're so
aesthetically,
right.
okay.
You know, if you want to, you know, if you're trying to go for that V-taper look, that look that, you know, women want to have the hourglass, weight training is the key. You're right, running on the treadmill, although it's a great form of exercise, and we shouldn't always look at training as how it affects how we look, because that's not why we got into training. We got into training for health, for enjoyment. That's what people should train for. But if you want to shape your body, you're right.
And maybe I speak for women out there, they'll say all that shit, but actually what they really want is a banging body.
You're right.
And they'll cover it up with, oh, I need to get fitter.
Yeah.
I want to look better on the beach.
Yeah.
I just want to get fitter. No, you just want to attract that guy. Or, you know, it's all about, I mean, I think there's too many people that say what they think other people want to hear, but actually, bottom line is you just want to look good.
Yeah.
And feel good, right? At the end of the day, it's looking good and feeling good.
For sure. I just feel like the industry needs to move a little bit away from focusing solely on aesthetics, but it's nothing wrong with wanting to improve how you look. It's not that. I agree. Weight training is the key, I think.
So, okay, moving away from the diet, the weight training, where do you see your... I mean, you've formed this fantastic business, and you've formed it around the controversial aspects of nutrition. Do you think it's just been about that, or do you think there's been more about what... I mean, are there any tips or things that you think you've done that has helped in terms of your own success?
Well, I think people would, you know, some people might sit here and glamorize running a business and, you know, pursuing their dreams, but I think that it's a lot harder than people give it credit for. It's a lot harder. And it does take a certain level of sacrifice, and it takes constant dedication. And I think...
What sort of sacrifice?
Well, you know, time, you end up having to give a lot of time. You end up spending a lot of money, your resources on it. You end up, you know, some days you wake up and you don't want to get out of bed. And, you know, mental health's a big thing at the moment with people. And, you know, somehow you still have to find the energy to get out and pursue what you're doing, even when you don't see the results sometimes, you know. For some people running a business, it may take years before they see the results. And, you know, you've got to have that resilience, I suppose, haven't you, to keep going.
I like that, the resilience and the mental health. Why do you think, because I mean, I've lived all my life majority of my life in corporate life, and I've also run my own business. And I think the difference is with corporate life, you do have people around you, and you've almost got to get to work because there are people there waiting for you, and obviously you've got a boss usually that's going to be on the other end of the phone. When you're running your own business, that's different. Do you think that's something to do? You're your own boss, right?
It comes with different challenges. I mean, if you think about it, you've got to get out of bed if you work for someone else, because they'll fire you. Right?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
But also, while it's good, yeah, you work for yourself. You can, I suppose, in some ways, in some businesses, if you have that luxury, you can wake up when you want. But the reality is, if you don't get paid. You don't progress. So it comes with a different challenge. You know, it comes with the challenge of, you know, motivating yourself rather than someone externally motivating you by firing you.
Yeah.
You know, so yeah, I think there's something very fulfilling about pursuing your passion, whatever it is. But it's harder than people give credit for, and I think people expect people to believe in their dreams, their passion as much as them, and you've got to go into the world realising that it's your dream. There's been times in my life, certainly in the last couple of years, where, you know, things have, you know, you go into a dark situation, I suppose.
How dark has it got? Or when you say dark situation, what
you know,
does that feel like?
I mean, I always used to be one of those people that said, you know, oh, just man up, you know, just deal with it, you know, when someone feels that way. You know, I was very naive to mental health. And then when it hits you and when you're in a situation where you feel like death is easier than life, that's a very messed up situation, you know. Yeah, I think so. You know, I'm not the only one who's felt like this, of course.
No, of course.
But yeah, you know, there have been times where it feels harder to live, to get up, to shower, to see people. And I think when you go through that, it sort of humbles you a bit. It makes you feel a little bit more appreciation for other people that go through this. And yeah.
How did you get yourself out of that?
just a good support network, and trying to stay positive, trying to see, you know, I spent a long time looking at things negatively, you know, well, you know, good things would happen, but I'd see the bad in them, and that sort of changed my
So it was your
mindset.
Completely.
Yeah.
Negative thoughts?
Negative thoughts, yeah, and it was, for a few months, it was an ongoing cycle of things are getting better, oh, they're getting worse, things are getting better, they're getting worse. And it's still to this day, you know, everyone has their doubts, but, you know, you really just got to try and stay positive and yeah, do what you can.
All that you've been through, you've just been chucked out the army, you're living out your van, you're eating from Tesco stuff, your girlfriend, you know, you don't know what's going on with your girlfriend. Yeah. What mental, like, what sort of situation goes through your head?
I think at the time, it was just like my army mentality. I had no thought process to think about feel sorry for me, because that's not what we do. When you're out at war, you don't sit there and feel sorry for you because you stubbed your toe. You still got to get up and go and fight. Like, it's just the way it is. You just get up.
So how many times, one of my favourite films, Rocky, and that saying where Rocky Balboa keeps getting punched, and it doesn't matter how many times you get punched, it's how many times you get up.
Yeah, exactly that. The more you think about it, the more you give yourself reasons to doubt yourself, the more you give your reasons to feel sorry for yourself and look for excuses.
So tell me, today you're a professional MMA fighter, and more recently you've just had your debut at the Brave Combat. Yeah. Now, I heard that you knocked out the Welsh favourite in 59 seconds. Yeah. What is that? I mean, when you go into that fight, what's going through your head? What mentality do you have to get into?
I think whenever I get given my opponent first, like when they first give me a name, I have to get that feeling in my heart, like, whoa, like a bit nervous, like a bit like, okay, shit, it's real. And then I'm a bit like, I wouldn't say worried, but I'm very like, my heart rate's going, and I sit there and I think about it, I think, oh, he's good, he's here and there. And in the moment I've done that little process, and it takes a day of me continuously thinking about it. I've already said yes, I'm going to fight the guy, because I'll just say yes to anyone.
Have you visualised it?
Yeah.
Do you do any visualisation?
Yeah, I visualise it a lot. But and the closer, then the moment I start training, then I realise I'm a fucking badass, and I know what I'm good at.
Do you do affirmations? Do you ever look at yourself in the mirror and go, I'm fucking going to kill him?
No, I don't do that. I won't look in the mirror and talk to myself in the mirror. I think, no, that's cheesy. Don't do that.
So, Conor McGregor, he's just been interviewed by Tony Robbins, and obviously everyone knows Conor McGregor. What do you think? What are your views on Conor McGregor? Isn't he someone that you'd like to fight?
In all honesty, I wouldn't be here and be like, oh yeah, calling out Conor McGregor. For one, I'm not actually in the UFC yet, so it'd be a different ball game when I'm in the UFC. But then also, on like a personal note and being real to myself, I don't think I'd ever call him out regardless, because I feel everybody in the UFC or anybody in the world wants to like use his name, like, oh, I'll fight Conor McGregor, because they all want that money fight. Listen, Conor McGregor's done what he's done, and he's got to his level because of what he's worked hard for and got there. Regardless of how he got there, he done it himself. Everyone's trying to latch onto him and try and be like leeches and like, oh, I want to jump on Conor McGregor because I'll then get paid $2 million because I'm fighting Conor, even though Conor's going to get $13 million for the fight. I'm like, fuck that guy, like, fuck McGregor. Like, when I'm in the UFC, I'm not going to be needing Conor McGregor. I'll be the money fight. I'm going to be the next fucking era. I'll be the guy that people are going to be like, I want to fight Cam because they're the $1 million fights. Like, I don't need Conor McGregor once I'm in the UFC. Once I'm in the UFC, the floor is mine. And trust me when I say it, it's a matter of time, and I will fight in the UFC. And when I do get there, I will be the next big fight. Like, it'd be my name that people are trying to then shout out, and I'll be saying the same to them, like Conor does. You're fucking leeches. You're hanging off the back of me. You all want my money fight.
Cameron, coming to the end of the interview, so I'm going to ask my usual last question, and that's, if you were to write a message in a bottle for future generations, what would that message be?
That's a really good one. I feel like I need 2 bottles or 3 bottles. But I think I'd like to try and just like bring the world together more. And I think that there's so many people putting so many quotes out there. I think if there was one quote that everyone had to live by, it's treat others how you want to be treated.
That's great. Cameron, thank you so much for being a guest on my show. Loved it. Hope you enjoyed the show. Remember, there's a new interview out every Monday, so hit subscribe and like, and you'll get it straight into your inbox.